Good morning. Today we are going to be making this vertical floating bandstand card using the Wildflower birthday paper with the laser cut die cuts that come with the paper. And we will also be using the set Cake Fancy and Birthday Celebration. So let's go ahead and get started.
Sounds good.
For our bandstand card, we are going to need some cardstock here. I think that's all the paper I need. For all of the measurements, I'm going to hold up my cutting guide that you can download. I hope I'll be able to figure that out. So the base piece is this piece here, and it measures 5.5 by 4 1/8. On the 4 1/8 inch side, we scored at 3/4 of an inch and 3 3/8, or you could score it on 3/4, flip it, and score it at 3/4 again. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fold on our score marks, and we're going to burnish it. Okay. So this is the front of our card, and this is the back. Okay, then we need 2 strips. Now I used extra heavyweight cardstock, and this is craft. And these 2-piece strips measure 1 1/4 by 5 3/4. And on these pieces, we are going to score with the 5 3/4 at the top. We're going to score it at 3/4 of an inch, 2 inches, 3 3/4, and 5. And so when we fold on all of our score marks, it will look like that. And we'll do that again. Okay. The next piece we have is this gold piece. And this is a matting layer. And this piece measures 2.5 by 5 3/8. Then we have this piece here that we will be adhering. And this white piece measures 2 3/8 by 5 1/4. But we're going to stamp on this first. Okay. And then you have 4 strips. I'm going to have to grab a couple more here. And these will be measuring 5 3/8 of an inch. So there's 4 of them by 5/8 of an inch. Okay. Then we have this piece that's for the front. And this piece measures 2.5 by 5 3/8. Then we have this piece that measures 1 1/8 this way. And I believe it measures 7 3/4 this way. It could be 7 7/8, but we're going to be cutting it down to 4 pieces that measure 1 1/8 by 1 1/8. And then you need 2 pieces that measure 1 1/8 by 1 5/8. So just to save time, I already have it at the 1/8, and so I'll cut this and it'll work out, okay? And that's just an extra piece from another card. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to do a little stamping. Now, I also have this little tiny white piece that measures 1 1/2 by 1, and we're going to stamp on that as well. So I already have my stamp set up. We're going to be stamping in pecan pie. And on this little white piece, I'm going to stamp birthday wishes. Just like that. Perfect. Go ahead and set that one aside. And then in my Misty, I have set it up to stamp the Make-A-Wish. And I'm going to pull this piece out here. I'll line it up right here. And I did it in here because I want it to stamp a little darker. So I want to stamp it twice. So 1 and 2. There we go. And now that one is all stamped. All right, so now we have stamped that. Now we're going to do a little bit of cutting. So let me grab my trimmer and then we'll be able to do all of our assembly. The first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that these strips all measure 5 3/8. I think I cut some of them at 5 5/8 on accident. So I want to make sure they all are at 5 3/8 and not 5 5/8. That one's right. And the last one here is correct. Okay. On these strips, you need to make sure you have 3/4 of an inch on this side and this side, okay? When I was scoring some of them, they got scored at a 1/2 inch. You just need to score it at 3/4 and fold on that fold line. Now I'm going to take this strip and I'm going to cut it at 1 1/8 so that I have 4 pieces that are 1 1/8 by 1 1/8, 2, 3, and 4. And with this leftover piece, I'm going to cut it at 1 5/8, and that should give me 2 equal size pieces. Okay, perfect. So that's all the cutting that we have to do. We are all done with our cutter. All right, let's go ahead and start assembling. So we're going to first take this big cake piece and we're going to glue it right here in the center. If I can find my, there it is, my glue. Okay. And then I have some cake pieces here. Now, ideally, if you, I cut all of these pieces, like I cut all of these pieces for everybody at one time, and then I cut all the strips. Ideally, you would want to cut your 5/8 and then your 2 1/2 and then another 5/8 strip from the same so that you get the pattern that goes all the way across. But because I did not, I will have to just let it be. And it's not really noticeable, but I know like some people will be kind of OCD about something like that. And that's okay. So just to let you know, if you're going to make this on your own, you might want to take into account that. All right, now that we have that part, we're going to flip this over and we are going to glue down this gold piece. And you want to glue it down in between your score marks. Okay, so it's centered there. And then we're going to glue this white piece on the center of the gold. Okay, make sure it's nice and centered. All right, now I'm going to set that aside and I'm going to grab these two pieces. And my big pieces are going to go in the center. And then my little squares will go on each side, just like this. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll glue that down. And you want to center them in between the two fold marks or score lines. Just like so. Okay, and we'll do the same with this one. There we go. And then this birthday wishes goes on the center. Just like that. All right. Now we're going to put these two pieces together. So I'm going to flip this over and slide it under the bottom. And I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to slide it under the top. And I'm going to be gluing these down, and I want to make sure I center this panel in between the two score marks here and here. So give it a nice center, and then I'm going to put a little glue here and a little glue here. 1, 2. Then with my magnets, I'm going to hold that down just like that. And now I'm going to work on the bottom while that is setting up to dry. Center that, make sure it's nice and straight. We're going to go like this and this. And now I'm going to move these down here for just a second and let that glue set up. And while that glue is setting up, I'm going to put glue on the back of this, and then I'm going to be able to glue it down these strips on each side. There we go. And just like that. All right, now we are going to, I'm going to put my, we're done with my liquid glue for a bit. And I'm going to grab my tear and tape and my acetate needs to be cut at 1 5/8 by 4. And this acetate is already 4 this way, so I'm just going to cut it at 1 5/8. Okay. And my acetate just has this little film behind it. Okay. That's just trash. All right. I am going to add a piece of score tape to the very top of the acetate and the very bottom of the acetate. Okay. Just like so. Now oh, that's too big. I did not cut that at the right spot. 1 5/8. I don't know what I cut it at, but that was not 1 5/8. All right. So essentially what I want to do is that is crooked too. Boy, I'm having a time, aren't I? Let me grab. There we go. I think that's a little bit better. Okay. So essentially what we want to do is I'm going to hold this here. We're actually going to be putting this down here, but you want to make sure that your adhesive strips fall underneath that middle panel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tear off or take off the backing for both of these. Now I'm going to lay this adhesive side up, and I'm going to center my acetate in between this line and this line. And I know it's really hard to see on camera, but when you're doing it in person, it's not so hard to see. And then I'm just going to press down, and that will pick up my acetate piece. See that? Now, using my tear and tape, I'm going to take one of the die cuts from the paper pack, and I have the cake ones just like right here. And I'm going to use this cupcake, and we're just going to stick it right here on that acetate. And that's why it's called floating, because this cupcake appears to be floating in the middle of the card. Like that. And center it like this. And it looks just like that. And your card is finished. And it will fit in a regular A2 size envelope. So I've made a few. This one has a cupcake and some flower arrangements on it, but there we go. How cute and easy are those? All right, the next card that we are going to make is this little birthday cake card. And then we stamp on the inside, enjoy your special day. I did get some ink there. Maybe I can sand that off while I'm looking at it. If not, I might have to just take some pretty paper to put down that edge. Anyway, here we are. It says, enjoy your special day. So the in-class treat, you got to make this as an acetate pouch. I will not be making the pouch on the video today. It's just an infinity shaker. But we will just be making a version of this. All right, so let's go ahead and grab the supplies for that. We need that piece. This piece measures 3 inches by 4 inches. Then we have our pattern piece that measures 2 inches by 5 1/4. We have some blueberry bushel. This piece measures 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And we have our card base. So we have a lot of stamping to do. So I'm going to first stamp my inside sentiment, and I have a ton of ink out here for all the stamping we're going to be doing. So using blueberry bushel, we're going to stamp this color first, and we're going to stamp the inside sentiment. Just like so. And we're done with that, okay? Now I'm just going to set this card base to the side because we aren't going to need it for a little bit. Set those 2 pieces. Now we're going to be stamping on here. So first, let me grab my mat, because these are photopolymer stamps and we like to give them a little bit of cushion. All right, so we're first going to start off. Oh, I forgot my cake stand. So hold on. we are going to do a little heat embossing on our cake stand in gold embossing powder. Here's my cake stand. Okay. First, I'm going to rub the bottom of my panel with anti-static powder. Take my Versamark ink, and I'm going to stamp right there as close to the bottom as I can and in the center, the best I can do. Okay. And then I'm going to sprinkle on a little gold embossing powder. Okay. And I'll set that powder to the side. Grab my heat gun. And the magic of heat melts that powder into a gorgeous gold. All right, now I need to stamp my cake layer, and I'm going to stamp this layer 3 times in Daffodil Delight. One, leaving a little bit of white space in between each layer. 2, if you can. And there's the 3rd layer. All right, so there is my cake. And then also with Daffodil Delight, I am going to stamp some flowers. Oh, did not have this flower on the block. And you can really stamp as many flowers as you would like. Okay, so 3 Daffodil Delight flowers. Then I'm going to take peach pie. And I'm going to stamp this flower in peach pie a couple times. Okay. Then I'm going to stamp the next one in Flirty Flamingo. Okay. And then the last one I'm going to stamp in Pool Party. That's this little tulip looking one. And I just used this one kind of as a filler. Okay, and I have stamped a whole bunch of these and none of them turned out the same. But I really feel like when you stamp the leaves, that's when it all kind of comes together. So the first set of leaves is just 2 little ones, and we're going to stamp those in Pretty Peacock. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, this one, I'm going to re-stamp that leaf. There we go. And then I have another set of leaves that I'm going to stamp using Blueberry Bushel. And, you know, you can 1st and 2nd generation stamp it if you'd like. And I feel like the leaves just kind of bring that whole bouquet. There we go. How pretty is that? Okay, that's all the stamping for that one. So we use a ton of colors for this card today. And now we're ready to assemble. And I have pre-stamped the time for cake and punched it out with a 1 1/4 inch circle. I'm going to go ahead and fold my card base. And burnish it. Okay, that's the inside. So we're going to start off by gluing this piece down. Okay, then I'm going to take my Floral DSP glue that down just like so. And then I think I'm going to pop this piece up, but I feel like I want to ink around the edges in the peach pie. There we go. Now I'm going to grab my foam tape and I'm going to cover the back of this with foam tape. There we go. Just like that. Now I'm going to put a little bit of pop up on the bottom half of this circle. So I'm going to take glue and put glue on the top. And that way it will be level. Okay, just like that. Time for cake. So even though this card was not a shaker, it is still gorgeous either way. So I hope you liked today's class.